Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome to Seriously Arabic where we learn a bit about the Quran. We're starting off with a recap of highly flexible isms, and these are words that have two versions of themselves. You have one for rafa and one for nasab and jar. So they cannot take kasra nor tanween. However, there is a special rule about them, and that is that if they happen to be in halat jar and are mudaf, or have alif lam, then they can take kasra. The other thing is that for a word to qualify as partly flexible, it needs to meet two conditions at least out of the 9 conditions, or one condition that is equivalent to 2. And those two are broken plural with an alif and not a ta marbuta, and a feminine word that ends in a ya maksura or alif mamduda. I have come up with a mnemonic to remember all of the 9 reasons, and in order for this to work, you need to keep in mind that in the transliteration we use the letter G to indicate Ain and the letter J for genes to indicate the gene. So this is the story of a man who always wakes up at midnight hungry, but he's a simple person and hates cooking, exactly like me. So he just grabs grape juice and toast and he eats that. And his name is Gran Torino. So Gran Torino wanted toast with grape juice at midnight. Gran stands for Ujma. Torino stands for Ta'nis, which is femininity. Wanted is waznul fi'l, the scale of a verb. Toast is tarkib, when two words joined to make one word. With is wasfun, grape is adlun, juice is jam'a, at is alif and noon that are extra at the end of a word, and midnight is ma'rifa. I also wanted to do a recap of everything that we did together. We have talked about the fact that fully flexible means that the ism can take tanween, can take kasra, and all of the harakats. Most words are fully flexible in Arabic, and they have 3 versions of themselves. So if I give an example of those, that would be muslimun, musliman, and muslimin. One for rafa, one for nasab, and one for jar. Partly flexible words are a special category of words that receive different treatment than normal words. They are not allowed to have a kasra, and they have to be light. We have done a recap of this already, but here I want to list what kinds of words are partly flexible in a different way. So these are partly flexible words in Arabic are proper names of. So you have proper names of non-Arabs. There is only 4 Arabs prophet in the Quran, and they are Muhammad, Shu'aib, Hud, and Saleh alayhim salam, and the rest are non-Arab. And the exception is 3-lettered words, 3-letter proper names with a sakin in the middle. Like the word Nuh. Then you have proper names of places like Mecca, Rome, Liverpool, and others. You have a proper name of feminine things or people like Zainab, or names that have alif and noon at the end like Uthman, for example. Proper names that have alif and noon at the end. Or you have proper names that are compounds, or they are a description or they are a description on the scale of fa'lan, and the feminine of these is not on the scale of fa'lanatun. These are the main things to remember about partly flexible, and also don't forget that Gran Torino wants toast with grape juice at midnight. As for non-flexible ism, we're going to bend the rules slightly here to make life easy. This is because the key thing from this topic is being able to recognize the status of a word. Now, if you don't know about the flexibility of words in Arabic, you might be tricked into thinking that a word is in this state when in reality it isn't. So, for example, the word Yusuf, if you see Yusufa, you may think, oh yeah, this is definitely nasab, but no, it could also be jar. Hence, why I am covering the flexibility chapter topic in this series at this point. So non-flexible means that the ism you cannot tell what i'rab it has, because this stands for because it looks the same in all states. These are your mabni words, and there are 8 of these as we have learned before. However, there are other words in Arabic that we do not consider mabni, okay? They are not mabni. However, you still cannot see any change in i'rab for these words as well. The last letter always looks the same. Hence why I am going to consider these words non-flexible, even though they're not really mabni, because it is also true for these guys that they only have one version of themselves. And these are words like Musa, Isa, Taqwa. And a note about Taqwa, I want to point out an error that I made last session. I mentioned that Taqwa is masculine, and I had some doubts after that, so I went in and I checked in many dictionaries, and I actually couldn't find anything. But then after some more digging, I managed to find that the word Taqwa is actually feminine. When you decline these words, the word Musa, Isa, so decline is the technical way of saying that when you put words into the 3 states, it will be like Musa, Musa, and Musa. As you can see, it looks totally the same in all 3 harkats. So they are invariable, which means that we can consider them non-flexible. And with this, we're done with status, and now we can look into the other 3 properties of ism. And the next one we're going to look into is number. In English, you have the singular and the plural. In Arabic, you have singular, dual, and plural, which consists of 3 or more. The dual is formed by suffixing ani in the state of rafa and aini in the jar and nasab states. Plural has 3 categories along with some other subcategories, and they are 3 in total. You have the Jama Salim. So plural in Arabic is Jama. You have the Salim, which is the sound plural, and you make these by adding the ending combination or i'rab bil huruf una and ina or atun and atin. And then you have your Jama Mukassar, which are your broken plurals. So if you want to look at this box, in English you have regular plurals, which you make by adding an S at the end, whereas some are irregular. So for example, the word booth, the plural of it is booths. But then you have the word tooth, which according to that same rule, it should actually be tooths. But it's not tooth, it's teeth. It's a completely different word. And the same thing goes for house, which is houses, and that's a regular plural. But then you have the word mouse, that is not mouses, it's mice. And this is what a broken plural is. It's a word that indicates a plural meaning and is completely different than its singular. And the only way to find out if a word is a broken plural is just by vocab, knowing the language. And if you look into the dictionary, it will tell you the broken plural of the word. And then the last category you have is Ismul Jamar, and these are your collective pronouns. which I will talk about that later. Let's focus on the sound and broken plural. So the Arabic for sound is salim, as we have seen. Broken is mukassar. Masculine is mudhakkar. Feminine is muannas. Intelligent is aqil. And then non-intelligent is غير عاقل. So intelligent beings refers to humans, angels, and jinns. Everything else in Arabic is considered non-intelligent. So let's have a look at sound masculine plurals. These end in una and ina. They include males or both males and females. And they refer to intelligent being only. Now you have the sound feminine plural in Arabic, and these finish in atun or atin, and of course the light version of these as well. They only refer to feminine things, and they can refer to intelligent being, so they can be aqil, in which case the pronoun that we use is they for these words, or non-intelligent, where we treat them as she or they. So let me explain. In Arabic, there is this crazy rule that some plurals, despite being plurals and perhaps masculine or feminine, they are treated with the pronoun she, meaning that the property that we will write for these kinds of words is singular feminine. In the case of sound feminine plurals, for example, you have the word ayatun, which is sound feminine plural is ayat. You can treat that as a singular feminine. So if you were to give an adjective, the adjective they must correspond in the four properties of each ism. You could say bayyinah, which means clear, proof, and that is singular feminine, or you can say bayyinatin, which actually conforms to the fact that it's feminine plural. But you have the option when it comes to sound feminine plurals to either treat it as a she or a they. And this crazy rule is a very important crazy rule. Let's have a look at broken intelligent plurals. So the i'rab of these is sounds. It's i'rab bil harka, whereas salim ones, the i'rab is huruf. So these plurals are only known by vocab. An example of these are words like nisa, ulama, rusulun, which means messengers. These words, they can be treated as she or they. Again, you have the option here as you have with the sound feminine. So the word nisa, which means woman, you can either say they, which in Arabic would be hunna for girls, or you can say hiya, which is a she, or you can say for the word rusul, which actually means messenger, so this is a masculine word, you can say hum, which is what they really are, messengers, or you can say hiya. So essentially you are saying that she is woman, or they are woman, or you're saying that they are messengers or she is messenger. This is crazy and nonsensical in English, but it works in Arabic. So for non-intelligent plurals, broken plurals, you have i'rab bil harka. So again, these are known by sound. And then these words, they are always feminine. They're always feminine. For broken intelligent plurals, you can have masculine plurals like home, or you can also treat them as feminine plurals, or they can simply be treated as singular feminine. But for broken non-intelligent plurals, they are always treated as feminine, and they're always singular. These broken plurals, you treat them as singular feminine. Sometimes you can treat them as feminine plural. So you have in the Quran the word ayyam, which is the plural of yawmun. This is a broken non-intelligent plural. It's a ghair aqil plural, and you can say ma'duda, which is the feminine singular, or you can say ma'dudat. So the fact that the Quran uses both actually indicates that this word, it can both be singular plural, or you can also say singular. You can also say feminine plural. So these can be treated. So these words are treated as she, and then sometimes they are treated as they, feminine again. And then we have ismul jama'. These are singular words that are treated as plurals because they indicate a group of things. They are not broken plurals, but rather they are singular words in a plural meaning. So we treat them as masculine plural or feminine plural depending on the gender assigned in the language. Some examples of these are, for example, the word qawmun, which means nation, or the word nasun, well, nas, which means people, and the word qarnun, which means generation. And these guys, they have the plural of their own. So for example, qawmun, the plural of qawmun is aqwam, and it means nations with the s at the end. So the plural of this is actually a broken plural, and it's an intelligent broken plural, which means that you have the option of treating it as a she or a they. Now we're going to do this exercise where we analyze these following plurals and we see whether we can understand each and every single property of them. So we will do this together. Make sure you can obviously answer for yourself as well so that you can check your understanding about this topic. You have the word zulumatin, a lot of darkness. So this ends in atin, which means that it's definitely feminine. Its sound, it's a salim. And is it intelligent? No, it's not intelligent. I'll just say an I. And because it's not intelligent, and for sound plurals, feminine, you have the option of treating it as a she or a they. Nas is masculine. It's actually an ismul jama'. It's a collective noun, and it's an intelligent word. So you treat it with the plural they, as you would normally would. Summun, it's a masculine word. However, it's also a broken plural, which means that it can be masculine or feminine. And the reason why that is the case, because this is deaf people, so it's intelligent, so it's referring to people, which means that you can either treat it as that masculine plural, so they, or you can treat it as she, which is the singular feminine. Asabi' is fingers, and it's feminine because it is a broken plural and it is not intelligent. And the fact that it's not intelligent means that it's always feminine, hence why the gender is feminine, and it will be she. You can also say they, but for broken plural, non-intelligent broken plurals, the standard is to say that it is she. Al-hijara, this means rocks, and it's feminine because it is a broken, non-intelligent plural, so you treat it as a she. Azwaj is a broken plural, and it's an intelligent broken plural, so you can treat it as masculine or feminine, and the pronouns would be they or she. Samawatun is feminine, and it's sound because he ends with atun. However, is not intelligent, which means that you can treat it as she or they, feminine. We're moving on to gender, and we are at 75% of the way done with the properties of noun. In English, there is a he or a she for real people, and everything else is it. However, in Arabic, you only have the masculine and the feminine gender, and we need to be able to identify for every ism that we come across its gender. By default, everything is masculine unless there is evidence to suggest that it is feminine, and there are two types of feminine. You have haqiqi, which means real feminine, and these are things that are actually biologically female, like your mom, sister, cow, aunt. Yes, even female animals, they're considered female in Arabic. Remember, there's no word for it. It's either he or she. Then you have lafzi. So it means phonetic, literally, meaning that it is sort of used as feminine even though it isn't really. So we're going to call these fake feminine. For example, the word sun, which isn't a real female thing, but we still treat it as feminine in Arabic. So there are 5 types of fake feminine. Number 1, these are words that end in ta marbuta, which is basically this ta, and you take the two ends and you tie them up together, and then you get the ta marbuta. For example, the word malika, which means queen. That word is feminine because it has the ta marbuta, or a word that ends in alif maqsura. For example, the word taqwa or the word husna, which is the name of a girl. Or you have alif mamduda, which is usually followed by a little hamza at the end. For example, the word hamra, which is the red color. However, you need to keep in mind that ta marbuta works for pretty much all cases, but the other two, they don't work all the times. So for example, the word huda, it has a ya at the end, but that doesn't mean it's feminine. Or the word ma, it has the alif mamduda, but this word is not feminine still. Then you have broken plurals. Remember that we just learned for intelligent broken plurals, the words they can be treated as she or for what they really are. And for non-intelligent beings, the words are always feminine singular, although sometimes you can say that they are feminine plural. Then you have a category of feminine, fake feminine called muannath sama'i, which means heard from the Arabs. So these are words that the Arabs use as feminine, so we're going to say that they are feminine simply because they have said so. So I have this little story over here that highlights some words that are feminine only because the Arabs said so. During a harb, which means war or battle, a soldier was daydreaming, looking up at the sky until the shams came up, which is the sun. When he snapped out of it, he realized he was the only nafs, you can say the only person, but it means soul, the only soul left on the battlefield. He was surrounded by nar, so he used a dalwun. Nar is fire. So he used a dalwun full of water. Dalwun is bucket. To make a sabil, which means a path, and a tariq, which means way, all the way to safer ard. Ard means land. In the hot blowing rih, which means wind, he was desperately looking for a bir. Birun is a well to draw water from. In his search, he found an empty dar, inside which he finds a kas. Dar is a house. Kasun is a goblet, like a cup. I think the word is goblet. Full of khamrun. Khamrun is wine. He is tempted despite his fear of Jahannam and Sa'ir. These two are names of Jahannam basically. Sa'ir is another name for Jahannam. To take a sip, but wards off his temptation and uses his asa, which is his staff, to strike the drink. Do you keep in mind that some of these words, they can also be considered masculine even though they can also be feminine? So you have an option for both when you're trying to establish the properties of an ism. So this is a snippet from the Hansword dictionary. So the word tariq here that we have said that is feminine. In the dictionary you find that it is M for feminine and for M for masculine and F for feminine. As you can see, it can be both. And then number 4, the fourth type of fake feminine, you have body parts that come in pair. For example, your hands, which in Arabic is yadun, your thighs, arms, legs, feet, the eyes. The Arabs say that they're all feminine, but they don't say that about the head, the brain, the stomach, and the back because they are not pairs. Then you have number 5, proper names of places like Misr, which is Egypt. You have Mecca, Milan, other places. And lastly, for today, we have an exercise where we will have a go at identifying the gender, the status, and the number of words. I'm gonna go through a few of these and then you can complete the rest. You will find the link for this in the description. I'm gonna pick purple. Yeah, purple. So we have the word hujur, apartment. So this is a broken plural in the state of jar. So we'll start off with the status here. And because it's a broken plural, it's feminine and it is a singular because it's a ghair akil broken plural. We have the word sayyi'at, sayyi'atikum, which means your sins, and this is again in halat al-jar, and it is feminine and it can be 1 or it can also be 3 because this is a sound feminine plural and it's non-intelligent, so you can treat it as she or you can treat it as they. Then I wanted to go to number 9, which is aqibatun, that is your rafa state. Then it's feminine because of the tamarbuta and it is singular. So I think the key says to use 1. Yeah. Bayda, which is number 20, this is in the state of rafa and it is feminine because of the alif mamduda over here and it is a singular word. Al-malaika, so this is in the state of jar and malaika is an intelligent broken plural, which means that it can be masculine, in which case the number will be plural, or it can be feminine, in which case it will be feminine singular. And then I wanted to go to the word yatama, which means the orphans. Now have a look here, it ends with this ya, and because of that we can't actually see what i'rab this word has. So this could be rafa, it could be nasab, or it could be jar. And it is orphans and it's a broken plural and it is an intelligent broken plural. So we have the option of calling it masculine with the plural, masculine plural, or we can say feminine singular. Then I have the word Jahannam. Jahannam is rafa and it is feminine because the Arab said so. This is a muannas samai and it is singular. Make sure you complete the exercises and I will see you all